Hello, students. So, let's talk about computers. More specifically, let's talk about how computers talk to us. Now, there are many different ways to look at this. I mean, this is a pyramid, this is a pyramid, this is a pyramid. There's a lot of different pyramids that have been trying to explain the process of how coding works. But think of it like this. Coding is a language, and it is a language that is being translated numerous times back and forth to reach its starting point to its end point. So, you know that whole word problem of, you speak English and Japanese, but the person you're talking to speaks German and French. So you got to find a Japanese person that speaks Italian, and then the Italian guy also speaks Spanish, and the Spanish guy also speaks French, and therefore can speak to the person that is so on and so forth. That chain of logic of who you have to speak to translate the message, the telephone game. So, I'm going to make another pyramid, and I'm going to make that pyramid I'm making this in Illustrator because I'm on a trackpad and I don't necessarily trust my drawing capabilities freehand. So I'm just going to simply make another pyramid. And that pyramid is going to have a couple of little breaking points. And I'm going to make generally the concept of how this translation winds up going from the computer to us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have enough levels for my design. Now, the thing about pyramids is you have to realize what came first, what's the foundation, and what's the end goal. So not only are you tracking a progress of technology advancements, you're also tracking the progress of time itself. So, when most people take a look at these sort of graphs and go, what does all this mean? Or what does this mean? And why does this have 3 splits right here? You're tracking different things that are very specific for people in the field. Now, I'm going to try and simplify this and explain it to you guys because, for those of you that took this class saying, well, I'll take the technology class because it was either that or a language elective. Well, here's the reason why it's considered a substitute for your foreign language. It's because computers are in fact a foreign language, with their own very specific syntaxes and very specific types of phrasing, depending on which computer language you use. So if we were to look back at, this nice little image right here, C, Pascal, Fortran, assembly language, machine language, all these sorts of things have their own different syntaxes. Some of them you need to put a comma here, some of them you need to put a parentheses, some of them you have to use square brackets, whatever. They're all different buttons you have to type in to do the same thing. It's not one button does the same thing in every single language. But the idea of the language follows the same process. Most of the time. So the idea of if you do this, then this will happen, that's universal. Sometimes you might have to write if. Other times you might just have to do something else. You might not have to type the exact same thing, but it's the same concept in multiple languages. And that's really the key point that you need to get across. It's like the difference between Spanish and Italian. Just take any word that has an O or an A at the ending point, remove it, replace it with an I or an E. Congratulations, you've probably just changed a Spanish word into an Italian word. They follow the same general language structures, but the exact specific letters you use are different. So, now that I've thoroughly confused you all, let's start with something very simple. What is at the very top of this pyramid? The very top of this pyramid is human language. Okay? This is us. This is where we are. This is what we need to be. At the very tippy top of this little pyramid. And then, what's at the very bottom? Well, the very bottom is what the computer is made out of. You know, its keyboard, its mouse, its circuitry, its wires. Everything the computer is physically made out of. So, that's the hardware. So, how are we going to translate the hardware, the little nuts and bolts, the very beginning, to go 1, 2, 3, 4, get translated 5 times up to human language? And vice versa, to have human language get translated 5 times down for that the little circuit, the GPU, the CPU, all this other stuff to understand us. So, there's 2 ways we could wind up doing this. We could wind up going from human language down or from hardware up. I'm going to go from hardware up in the next video.